Welcome everyone to our founder Q&A with Jen Huang Gill and Ina Zhang. They're co-founders and chief product officer and chief operating officer, respectively, of Fluxon. And Fluxon is a product development company that they built 7 years ago now. Is that right, guys?
Roughly 7, 8 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we're going to get to pick their brains. It's been wildly successful. I mean, this company is huge now. It's got 100 people, which is really impressive. And they have been able to travel all over the world to both, connect with their customers, but also bond as a team. And so we get to hear about some of that fun stuff too. But more importantly, part of the reason I brought them on here today is they're moms. And while they were building Fluxon, they also built young families. I think collectively they have 5 kids under the age of 10. Is that right, ladies? Yeah.
8 and under. Yeah.
8 and under.
Yeah.
That's insane. I mean, it's just kind of incredible to see both your success in business and your success in family, right? So definitely want to dig into that. And I know there's a lot of founders and young moms in this call. So I'm sure, tee up your questions, folks, as you're thinking about things. So just to lay the groundwork. So Terry O'Connor and I have been doing a series of women's focused talks. Jen and Ina are the second in our series of founder Q&As highlighting entrepreneurs and building impressive businesses post-Google. And so one of the reasons this is super important for me personally right now, right, which is why we're going to do this, is, we went on this incredible camping trip about 2 weeks ago with a lot of other Zooglar leaders. And we're really thinking about, gosh, what is the future of this organization, right? What is it that we want to achieve? Who do we want to be when we grow up? You're already kind of grown up, right? But, where do we want to take it over the next 10 years? And we really landed on building the next generation of entrepreneurs in all shapes and forms. So that's why bringing on more founders, more entrepreneurs is super important to us as an organization. And I hope that you find inspiration in hearing their journeys as well. And as you go on your journey, right, if you're interested in also sharing your story, we'd love to bring you on to speak as well as part of this series. So with that, I mentioned a little bit about Fluxon early on, but it's just really incredible to see how they've built it from the 4 co-founders to now this team of 100 people. And collectively, they're serving something like 70 startups and enterprises, including companies as big as Walmart and Google. I mean, that's pretty incredible. And so I want to know how they did it. And so let's go ahead and get started in the Q&A. I want this conversation to be as beneficial for you, the attendee, as possible. So please do ask questions. This is not a, Steph asks questions kind of show. This is a interactive conversation. So, even if you have a first question now, you're welcome to interrupt me, raise your hand, or type it in the chat, and we'll get right to it. So, okay. So let's start with some basic intros. Ina and Jen, I'd love for each of you to just take a quick moment to give us a little bit of background about your career history leading up to Fluxon. So we can start with Jen and then we'll go to Ina just for simplicity.
Okay. Yeah. So I basically started my career at Google. I was there early 2006 to mid 2016. I worked across a lot of different teams, but the team that I was on the longest was the search ads team. So I was a product manager leading all of the search ads targeting products. Products advertisers use to figure out how they want to target their ads on Google. After I left, I went to Stripe. I joined Stripe relatively early. I was there from about 2016 to 2020. I was one of the first PMs there. And so it was a very interesting experience doing that. And also I think the first person to take maternity leave in the US office there. So that also was a very interesting experience and have a lot of stories to share around that. And then I joined Fluxon. I lead the product team. So I'm the CPO. And it's been amazing, working here. I think I've been incredibly lucky to have, working with Irad and Ina and AJ, the four of us, like running the company together. I think it's rare when you have four co-founders that, work really well together. I think it's helpful that, many of us knew each other from before. But we have very similar values and visions for the company. And it's been great, and, happy to answer any questions that people have here.
Amazing. Ina?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So as Steph mentioned, I'm one of the co-founders of Fluxon. Yeah, we started about 7-8 years ago. And luckily, as Jen mentioned, there's four of us, and we actually knew each other before we even started the company. So it's been really fun. And prior to that, I was the COO of PandaDoc. And kind of over the years, because I joined at a very early stage, over the years, seeing it grown to a unicorn status. So that was also fulfilling for me. So I'll say a big chunk of my career was mostly focused on building company from ground up. And on the personal side, I am a mom of 3 kids, as Jen mentioned, 8 and under. And recently, we have 2 guinea pigs join our family. So life is pretty crazy, but it's fun. Yeah.
Like real guinea pigs.
Guinea pigs.
Yeah, pets.
No, real. The funny thing is my daughter got 2 guinea pig toys right before, and they look exactly like the new ones.
Oh, that's so funny.
That's so cute.
That's hilarious.
Sometimes from far away, we can't tell which one are real. Yeah, it's cute.
The thing that I didn't tell you guys is that I'm actually super familiar with Fluxon because my time with Jen and Ina goes way back too, specifically Irad and I were sort of Google BFFs, and he introduced me to both Jen and Ina over time, and AJ over time too. So it's just been incredible to see how your company has grown. So, I mean, with that, right, let's get into Fluxon a little bit. So you're this 4 top co-founder group, right? And, every company has a garage story. Would one of you be willing to sort of tell us about your garage story and how you all got started?
Yeah, I can jump in. I would say it's more of a basement story, not a garage story, because literally we work out of our basement right next to the garage though. So yeah, I could say when so I'm not sure if many people know, so Irad is also my husband. So, 2 of us are married in life and work, essentially. So when we both quit our jobs around the same time, we just decided that, hey, let's build something. And then that's when AJ and then Jen joined us. Initially, we weren't sure what we're going to build. Like most of us, we, essentially left and say, oh, we should build a product company. So we did. So that was the first startup that we started. But very quickly, we realized we didn't really enjoy the work we were doing. And I think especially the space we picked was, which was in consumer fintech. And I've realized my job would have been basically fundraising indefinitely. And I just didn't really enjoy that. And I remember at the very early stage, we were working with a couple of friends, and we were also helping them build their products and just solving their problems. And very quickly we realized, actually, we really enjoyed that job. How can we do more of that? And that's how essentially Fluxon started it. And now, with us almost reaching 200 people globally, it's been really, really fun. And many of the attendees here are actually from different parts of the world. And I see many familiar Fluxonians on the call. So yeah, it's been really, really fun. I don't know, Jen, if you want to join, and share anything else. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just want to say, I definitely I think it's very scary, leaving Google.
Yeah.
Especially if you're leaving Google to work on a startup. It's a very scary thing. It's very risky. For me, I was at Google and at Stripe, and even though Stripe was early, they were already, very well established, well known. And, going to something like Fluxon was definitely, I'm not a big risk taker. And so for me, I kind of half dipped my feet into Fluxon in the very early days, because I was like, well, this is after I had already left Stripe, and I was trying to figure out what to do next. But just so quickly, within just weeks of just working with Ina, Irad, and AJ, I was like, this is amazing. I love this. I want to do this. And just quickly was I'm in. I'm fully in right now. And so I just want to say, if there's people here thinking of doing this, and just want to say I recognize and acknowledge it is scary to do something like this. And I also just say, we were lucky that, it has worked out for us as well.
Correct. Yeah, definitely agree. It was especially difficult for us because both Irad and I didn't have a real job. So especially our daughter was born around the same time we started the company. So also having a newborn, starting a new company, both quit our jobs. that
That's a ton
that
of
was
risk.
pretty, yeah, that was scary, but also really exciting at the same time because we were, working with AJ and Jen. I mean, it was just really fun. We were always like creating. We were problem solving. It was very, very fulfilling. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so many questions. And if anyone has questions, feel free to raise your hand or jump in the chat. But talk to me about the journey of securing some of those first early clients, and then how you went from those first clients to these kind of behemoth organizations like Walmart and Google as regular customers of yours.
Yeah, it was interesting to kind of reflect back on it. The first few clients were mostly people we just knew. We knew in our network. I remember AJ was working with this winery, and I don't know, Jen, if you recall the story of them climbing trees. We did everything we could. I think they had to install a camera because we want to capture the live footage. And I remember they saying that, looking at each other, is like, we're never doing this again. And then also a lot of our early clients were, again, like just coworkers, former coworkers that we worked with that started their own company. And I remember because the first startup that we work on, which is a consumer fintech company called Indigo, we met a lot of folks just through that journey. And the founders that we met during that journey actually then became our first clients. So all of it is part of our startup journey. So I didn't feel like it was like time wasted, but rather it's the beginning of our journey that ultimately got us to Fluxon. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, even though, like, yes, in the very beginning, it's, our connections, it's still that right now. I think what's really incredible is that we've grown. We're actually over 100 and getting close to 200 people now. And we have, like, it's all grown just kind of like just naturally and through organic growth. We don't have like a dedicated like sales team. And this is all through our connections. And I think over time, what we've done is, what's really amazing is, I would say the best sales team are ourselves and also our customers. So a lot of new clients we get are just referrals from our customers, which I think is just amazing because it's just like, it just kind of speaks volumes in terms of the great work that we do. And we also, we've had repeating customers also, like people who've worked with us and then left and started another company and then came back to us, or they went to join another company and then referred us over there. So it's really great that we just, have this great network of connections and just been able to grow just through, through our personal networks.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I think something that you guys mentioned early on, which is a real blessing, is how well you all knew each other beforehand, and how, having 4 powerhouse founders obviously makes it feel like things are easy, right? And I don't want to
not easy.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to like diminish the journey that you guys went through, but talk to me about those values, right? How did you know it was worth, working together? And like specifically also, you took a big risk in deciding you were going to make your husband your business partner, right? Like, talk about like commingling now, right? Like your family and your work life. It's like, how did you come about some of these decisions? And again, like the values that actually underpin all of this.
Yeah, I mean, either we were going to make it or not. So I would say it's because we do have shared values. That's why we ended up getting married. I would say in terms of shared values, I feel like we exhibit the same, like we look for the same in our company. It's just good human beings being kind to one another, be very understanding, and then always coming from the place of care. So at Fluxon, actually, our core value is care. Do everything with care in terms of like, treating each other with respect and really helping each other feel fulfilled at their job, and also helping our clients succeed. And I think that's the reason why, as Jen mentioned, we're able to grow quite organically just through customer referrals. And our team also always refer their ex-colleagues to us as well. And I feel like on top of also, as founders and also our customers being our best, like sales channel is also our team as well, because like they've been doing an amazing jobs and they're able to really always deliver really high quality work. Yeah. I don't know, Jen, if you have anything to add. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I was lucky. So I didn't know AJ beforehand, but I did know Irad pretty well. I was actually his like buddy when he joined Google. So I think I'd known him the longest since like I think he
Oh,
joined in
like
7.
nuclear buddies?
17,
Like,
18 years.
Yeah, when he joined Google, I was already there on the same, we were like in the same department, not the same team, but then I was like
oh,
one of his like buddies that kind of helped ramp him up. And then I got to know, and so we worked closely together, I would say. And so we knew that we worked well together. And then I met Ina through Irad, and Ina and I actually worked together too. We were both on the
I almost forgot that.
yeah, we run the board of a nonprofit. It's a Chinatown Community Children's Center. So it's like a nonprofit. It's kind of like a preschool daycare.
Yeah.
It serves like low-income families in Chinatown. And so Ina and I were on a board on that for like many, many years together. So like I also got experience working with Ina, and like we got along great there too. And so for me, it was like very low risk joining because I already worked with like Irad and Ina like pretty well beforehand. And I think we also just have very similar values. I think one nice thing is what we recognize is for Fluxon, truly like what is important, what makes the company special is the people. Like, because for our company, people like companies are hiring our people. They're hiring, you know, our engineers, our PMs. And so because we recognize that we care so much about the people in the company, and we really care about the culture. And I think just all of that, just having that mutual like understanding and belief just like makes things just a lot easier in terms of how we want to run the company.
Yeah.
okay, I gotta get into this now. Tell me about your first offsite. Where did you guys go? And then I think you're on offsite number like, is it number 7? Or maybe a different number, but like you know, most recently you were in Thailand. Where did you guys go for the first one? And
it was in Kiev, I'm pretty sure, right, Jen?
I think it was in Ukraine. We had actually have quite a few folks in Ukraine, but we just had our first global offsite, and that was in Thailand. And so that was amazing. We flew like 150 or like a lot of people.
50 plus ones. So we were really, really excited. Like our team really wanted their family to come as well. And we got to meet a lot of partners, a lot of kids. It was my kids play with their kids, everyone's kids as well. They were just running around. It's really, really cute.
Yeah. I think that's so rare now, just to kind of say that obvious part out loud, right? Is that we were raised in this kind of generation of Silicon Valley that actually really cared about employees. And I think working at Google in those early days very much felt like that. And I think I have been surprised to see the tides turn so hard in the years coming out of the pandemic, right? And so it's so refreshing to hear that there are still companies that focus on their people and put their people first. And so I just want to like commend you guys for doing that and building that, because I think that we just need more of that now in the Valley, right? It's not always about results and revenue and growth. It's about, and actually we should talk about growth because we had a side chat about this early on, right?
I think also what helps is the fact that we have a lot of parents in our company. And I think having that perspective, you know, being very understanding when we receive messages like, oh, my child is sick, or, you know, we have a field trip, we need to take, we encourage that. You know, not only do we encourage it, we really embrace it. We believe that we really need to take care of our personal responsibilities before we can like really be focused on work. And it's not either or, you can have both. Yeah.
Well, I'm coming towards the end of my list of prepared questions. So I want to make sure that folks who are getting ideas and curious are starting to ask questions as well. I want to shift into the family stuff now, and just
that's always fun.
Yeah, I know. This is the part where I have to like rein you guys in a little bit because I know you love this is the fun part. But I'm actually curious. So somebody asked a really great question on the invite, which is, what are your systems for managing family and work at the same time?
Yeah, I would say you have to be very disciplined and very organized and plan ahead. So I have like an 8 and a 6-year-old. I think one thing is important is like, and we all recognize this even across Fluxon, is like we prioritize family. Like family's, the most important. If your child is sick, you need to take care of your child. And then and just being just very disciplined in terms of how you work. I think like, there are times when I'm really on and then I'm like fully on in terms of like work, but then I also make sure that I have time that I really am fully on with the kids and not being distracted from Slack. I think one thing that's different about our company is because it's so global, we generally ask everyone, this is like in the US time zone, like people need to really be on during the mornings. And so one thing that's more difficult for us is like in the mornings, we're pretty busy with like lots of meetings. But then the nice thing is we usually end earlier in the day in terms of our meetings. And so for many days, if I need to, I can pick up my kids from school and, things like that. But I think it's important to be disciplined. It's important to be, plan ahead, like, okay, these are the days that I'm going to do like meal planning and meal prep. These are the days that, I do laundry and, things like that. And I think, and I also I think just like rely on your village, if you're lucky enough to have family nearby, if you're able to hire some help, if you're able to, lean on some moms to help with like carpooling and other things like that, it's not possible to do this all on your own. I'm definitely not going to say I do this all on my own. That's definitely not 100% true. I have a lot of help. And I think it is important to recognize that and not be shy to ask for help. I think a lot of women are kind of shy to ask for help, or it's like an admission of defeat if you're asking for help, but it's not. I mean, like that's just only going to make you stronger and better, both as a mom and, as a founder.
Yeah, I totally agree and will echo what Jen said. Is you definitely need your community, you need your village. I definitely lean on my family a lot. Obviously we also have part-time babysitters who can help us. Additionally, other parents of my kids, friends, they are also helpful. I'm not as organized as Jen. I'm often finding out the last minute. Like for example, yesterday I found out my son has a performance this morning. I was like, we need to put something nice on him, or there's some event happening. And luckily, my oldest, who's 8, often knows that I'm so forgetful. She will tell me in the morning of like, hey, by the way, this is what's happening. So I feel like she's part of my system. And she kind of learned that mom is very forgetful, and she'll remind me. And I think you kind of just make it work. And I would say I apologize to my kids probably more often than I like to admit. And they know that when I make a mistake or I forget something, like it's okay. And they help me. Yeah.
I love that you have kids managing you.
I need it.
Yeah, no, especially now that Ian and I, both our oldest, are on the same age. They're like 8. It's like I think we started to recognize like, hey, like they need to learn how to do things by themselves. Like they need to be independent and
do chores as well. That's something we're trying to get better at as well. But it's not like I think Jen and I don't think like we kind of figure all of this out. So just constantly like evolving and trying to figure new things we can do. Yeah.
If I could ask a quite personal question, was there ever a moment where you felt like you kind of dropped the ball?
Oh my God.
You're like every day.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear like probably for the other moms in the room who are either afraid of or have felt like they've done that themselves. Like, what was your experience that just kind of made you feel really bad or guilty or what have you? And how did you make it up to your kid or husband or whatever?
One thing I just realized, we just had our global trip, and what we didn't realize is like we booked it basically over Mother's Day. So that was like kind of like a little mess up on our side. And we're like, oh crap, like this is starting like the day after Mother's Day, which requires a lot of people to fly the day before and miss Mother's Day. And so like the good thing is I don't think there's anything that was like really catastrophic in terms of like mess ups, but there's definitely a lot of things, like this. I think we were planning this offsite for the longest time. We booked it 8 months in advance. We needed to pick a time that, all the 4 executives were available and didn't interfere with like going into school, and then the hotel is available. And, I think it's just hard to kind of like, when you're thinking about all these things, it's just like, it's hard to, know about everything and have everything kind of work out perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I constantly drop the ball. Just the other day, I remember that's the day that my daughter told me that she was going to have an exhibit. And, oh, mom, you need to be there at 3:00. It's like, great, set my alarm, totally lost track because I was busy typing something. And then I show up half an hour later and I was feeling really guilty. And I was waiting to see her disappointed face. And when I saw her, she was totally fine. But she did guilt trip me. So I took her to boba and the crisis averted. But I just feel like it's okay. It's actually totally okay to drop the ball and just admit when you do and be okay and process those emotions. And I feel like if you don't, like you just have to be kind to yourself. It's so hard. There's, we have 3 kids and now 2 guinea pigs as well and that we're responsible for, and obviously our company. So, and it's all okay. I feel like it's just a support system. We have great support at our company. I feel like anytime I need to go on vacation, I'm out of the office, the work is not just waiting for me. It's actually taken care of. Like I have like Jen, Irada, AJ, and all the team. There's so many of you guys on the call now, and I just want to thank you guys. I really do feel like we have a really, really strong support system. And I'll say at the end of the day, probably if I have to give one advice is choose the people you keep in your company. Because it makes a world difference, whether it's partner in life, partner in business, and just people. I think it's incredibly important. I think culture is just a reflection, sort of like how we view work and even in life, family values. It's just a reflection of the people you keep. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say, like, in terms of just dropping the ball, I would say it is 100% expected, especially these days. Like, there's so much more on like work.
Yes.
These days, like, back when our parents were raising us, like a lot of moms didn't work. Like my mom didn't work. She did work and then she quit after she had, after 2 kids, she stopped working. So a lot of moms weren't working. I would say many moms are working these days. And then not only that, like the demand on like parents.
Yes. Number of emails we get from schools
is so much. Like when I talk to my mom, like, I usually call my parents when I'm driving and she's like, and I'm like, I'm going to school again. And she's like, this is ridiculous. She's like, when I was like, with you guys, I went to school maybe like at most twice a year. Like, these days, like parents are asked to come in like once a week even. There's parent-teacher conferences. There's like volunteering for this teacher birthday. There's so many crazy things going on. And, and so it's like, this is so much more. It wasn't like this before. And so I would say it's not possible. And I would say not even expected to be able to do all of this. And so if people are dropping, it's like, and I'm dropping balls all the time too. It's like, I would say it's expected and also just normal because it's just too much going on these days. Yeah.
Yeah. I really like the question that someone dropped into chat as well, because I think the word whisper is a very interesting operative word. So the question is, if you could whisper one piece of advice to your earlier self, what would that be? And so there's a sense of vulnerability about a whisper that I think I'd love for the both of you to tap into.
Yeah. For me, I would say it's like protect your time, protect your health. I think one thing, like, and this is very true for me, and I think for many folks, is like when you're early on in your career, like you just really, really, really prioritize work and you kind of sacrifice so much for work. And I feel like, honestly, it didn't take me until after I had my second child, to be honest, when I really started to really protect my time from work. I remember I was even pregnant with my second. I was about 8 months pregnant. So I was about to give birth. I was working at Stripe. I was in the office till like 3 or 4. I pulled an all-nighter. I was like 3 or 4 a.m. in the office. And the people are just like, what are you doing? Like, you don't need to be doing this. And I felt like I had to, but in retrospect, like I didn't have to. Like I didn't have to pull an all-nighter like while I was 8 months pregnant. And then even with my first, I worked past my due date because I felt guilty going on maternity leave. And, that was my first time doing that. And, I feel like unfortunately it takes a long time for people to learn that. I think what's nice is I finally learned it, but I think it's good for people to try to learn it earlier. Like protect yourself, protect your time, like your health, your family is always the most important.
Yeah, for me, it's very similar, which is try to say no to some things. And I think it's just at the very beginning, I think especially at the early stage, there's a lot you have to do, which is okay, but you also need to ask for help. And I think, again, luckily, because we have co-founders, sometimes I know a lot of startup founders who are solo founders. Honestly, kudos to you guys. It's extremely, extremely hard. I don't think we could survive. I personally couldn't have done it without my co-founders. So just being able to have the support system and kind of share that responsibility. So yeah, I would say for sure, like being able to be comfortable with saying no. Yeah.
That's a hard one. As evidenced by some folks who I know are multitasking and doing family things, perhaps while being on this call, right? It's really hard to actually just take the time to be present for yourself and do something nice for yourself, like attending a talk by some folks that you would like to learn from, right?
Yeah.
So
I would also add that it's definitely very, very hard, especially you're in the midst of everything. It's of course easier to say, hey, take a break and don't do that. I would say, at least in my own experience, the time that I was able to take a break, I was much more productive afterward.
Yeah.
I just really needed to give myself some time to pause and reflect and be more strategic about how I'm spending my time. So I know when you're in the moment, it's really, really hard to like kind of step away, but just want to share again, from personal experience, it actually was very, very meaningful. Yeah.
Yeah. And even if you can't take a break now, I think if you're really feeling burnt out, like plan something. So you have something to look forward to. You know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, so even if it's something crazy going on right now, everyone, I think, like in a month can afford to take like just one day off, and so plan that, block it off. I think it's really important to like completely block it off so that nothing else, gets booked over that day. And then just make sure you really do take that time for yourself.
Yeah. I see Terry has a question that's sort of switching gears. If I could ask one more kind of probing question on this, right, which is talk to me about growth of the company and the pace at which you've decided to grow, because I think that there's a lot of pressure that when you take VC funding, which I know fortunately you guys didn't have to do, there's a lot of pressure to be explosive in your growth, to, become the unicorn company in whatever space you're in. What did you guys, how has this prioritization of family and quite frankly, some work-life balance, right, impacted your growth trajectory, if at all?
So as you mentioned, we didn't take any VC money. So feel like we can kind of pave our own path. We always knew that we're not the type of company that's going to grow at any cost. We really want to grow with intention, and we really want to grow with care. So we feel like, hey, if like 5 years from now, we have gone to so big that somehow we also end up losing our culture, we will consider that a failure. It's really, really important that we continue to build on the culture and foster it, because just selfishly, I wouldn't want to work in the company I'm proud of, that I feel like I can truly be fulfilled. So I think we really want to grow with intention and focus on how can we continue not only grow organically, obviously through word of mouth, through our customers, through our own team, but also build out our program. So we definitely are intentionally building that out as well. We understand it's a necessary path of our growth, but at the same time, being okay with making be okay with foregoing certain things, which is like, hey, not have to like double every year or triple every year. Be okay with a slower growth, while seeing that their culture is being preserved, if not, getting even stronger. That to us is the ultimate goal.
Yeah. I would say for us, like the thing that really drove our decision not to take the VC money was mostly like we just wanted to have control over the company. We wanted to run the company as how we wanted to run it. We wanted to grow the company how we wanted to grow it. And once you take VC money, especially if you take a lot of VC money, it really changes like how you run the company, how you grow the company. And we really wanted to have independence, and then also wanted to grow the company how we wanted to, with both intention and with care. And so, yeah, so I would just.
Yeah. One thing I would add is that we also realized very quickly that there is such thing as like founder business model fit, right? I think we're pretty down to earth. We like business models that just are simple, which is like make money, because not every startup can make money and be profitable, right? So the first startup we chose to build, we would have been on the path of like never potentially reaching profitability. Will just be endless fundraising. And I think that's the reason why we pivoted to Fluxon is we saw, okay, maybe at the beginning we were not making a lot of money, but we have revenue that were coming in. And then of course, over time, we became a profitable business. And I believe that's also the path. And then I think for the founders in the group here, it's just like kind of ask yourself, this is the path you want to go into, and just to kind of see like where's that fit, right?
Yeah, maybe let's get on the topic of product market fit. Was there sort of an aha moment for you? And that's Terry's question. And Terry, you're welcome to ask it if you want to. That'd be nice, actually. Maybe I won't summarize for you. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, happy to share, Steph. It's okay for you to ask as well. But, by the way, very inspiring and also encouraging for those people who are founders or solopreneurs or wanting to be a solopreneur and grow like myself. I just love the things that you're saying about the founder business model and growing with intention and organically. And as you're talking, I'm thinking, when was that moment, or maybe it was several moments, when you started realizing you had product market fit, and then took you on this path intentionally to keep growing? It's pretty very remarkable, and thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Well, we got.
Yeah. Sorry. Do you want to go first, or do you want me?
I guess when we first got our check, the first check, that people were willing to pay for our services, and it was a very small check, but we took a photo of it. Jen?
Yeah, I think for me it was a little bit later. I think when COVID first hit, that was like devastating and really hard. And, knock on wood, hopefully only a once in a lifetime experience for us. But, it was hard. It's hard for a lot of companies. Like we suddenly lost like a big chunk of our business. And that was really, really difficult time for us. But I would say like really, really fast, like within months, like not even like, maybe just a couple of months, like it just bounced back so quickly. And it was all just kind of like organic. Like a lot of people just came straight back to us and knew, and it just came to us. And then we just like, and we basically exploded like after that. And that was when I was like, oh, wow. Like, and then even when like the market was still pretty, I would say, bad in tech, like we were still growing really well. And I would say even now, like, I would say tech is not like doing horribly right now, but I wouldn't say it's doing amazingly well. But given that we're still able to grow really fast and grow really well, like during this period too, I feel like that really speaks volumes in terms of like our product market fit. And so for me, it was like the quick bounce back from COVID, and also just seeing how fast we're going, even despite like the market, not doing incredibly well.
That's incredible and so fortunate, and I think speaks to the quality of the work that you all are doing. So it's awesome. Marjan, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, I do. So in fact, you mentioned Kiev, and I think you work with Ukraine as well. I do have some of my engineers and designers. So one of them, my like UX designer, I worked with her for 4 years. She did design the whole thing. So she's very imprinted on the thing. But she had a baby in summer, even throughout her pregnancy, just like you explained, she kept working. And somehow Ukraine, whenever they hospitalize the mom, they keep them for 5 days. Like, because it was so important to them and they could afford it. But still, she worked from the hospital. Like, she's very, like, I didn't ask her to. but she did. She loved the product. But around like fall, she couldn't work for sure. So we paused things and we said, whenever you can come back. And she said, oh, let me come back on Sundays. My husband is home and I can work on Sundays. She kept trying, but at a point, like my project manager said, there's another designer. So our next product is coming from another designer. But I still wanted Olga to come back. But I don't know even how to communicate, even culturally, to say, I'm not forcing you, but you created this like 90% of this thing. How can I like create some incentives around like even the situation in Ukraine is scaring them. So she thinks she should just be with her baby. Like she works from home anyways. How is your experience with bringing back very emotional moms from maternity?
I think just be very, very honest and transparent with her, with your thoughts.
I did.
Yeah. I think it's just, we have, because when the war started, we also have a very sizable team in Ukraine. So there's a lot going on, of course, when that happened, and we wanted to be there to support our team. And I think this is definitely a very tough situation. I think being a mom, I don't think I want to regret that I spent too much time with my kids. Oftentimes it's regret of maybe I should have spent a little bit more time. So I think just maybe giving her that advice. And I don't know if that's true. Probably you know the situation more than us, whether she has this fear of potentially not having the job in like in the future, and if you can kind of just secure her that you will wait for her. I think that and I there's this sense, especially I think for moms, once you have a kid, you do have this fear of like, hey, if I don't work for continuously for X period of time, do you feel like your skills are no longer relevant? And I think that's a real fear. And I think just acknowledging just with her, from woman to woman, just like it's all going to be okay. I really want you back. You built most of the product, and just reassure her that things are going to be okay, and she should take this special time to be with her baby. Yeah,
that is, in fact, I did that. That's why I'm a little nervous that maybe like she doesn't even. I was thinking she would by now start like a few hours, check on, like we already onboarded another designer, which made me a little nervous, but everybody seems happy because we can move on. I wanted her to mentor the new designer, but I couldn't lure her.
I think it's okay. I think it's like what Ina said. You just need to be open and honest. You need to be clear in terms of like what you need. You can't just like not hire anybody. I think it's just be like, I need these many hours. Obviously, I would love for you to be that person to fill it. But if you can't, that's totally fine. Like I'll find somebody else. But you always have a place here. You can always come back. And then honestly, I would just encourage her just to take time to be with her kid. I think it's really hard to time between the two, and you kind of just focus across the two. We had a great PM with us, and she wanted to take a year off and for her maternity. And we're like, yes, go ahead, please do. And when you're ready and you want to come back, like we'll be waiting for you. And so I think it's great. She's taking a whole year off to be with her kid.
I love that. I think that what I'm picking up from you guys too as a theme here is there needs to be a fair amount of redundancy within the company in order to allow that kind of slack, right? So that's something to consider too, is if you're so lean as a company and there's no coverage if one person leaves, that's maybe not a good position for you to be in. Maybe it's worth considering, can you bring on some more part-time help or some other folks if you can't afford to hire a full-time person, right? Talk to me about some of those personnel decisions, right? Like, are there like, how do you think about like whether or not you have enough people and coverage for, say, a high demanding client, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the start of a sales process, we'll get a really good understanding in terms of what they're asking for. And then generally during that time, we will like figure out like what is the right team size, for the project. And then we'll staff that the people on there. And then generally, I would say many times it works out pretty well. Also, there's a set rate for a certain team. So maybe like they have a budget only for that team. And so they just have to kind of need to make it work with that team. But sometimes if they have more budget or they realize they need more help, we can always add people. We can always remove people from a project. But I would say it's pretty like standard. Like we just, we try to get a good understanding. We actually have the team help us understand, like in terms of what is a good size team for the project. We get agreement before we sign a contract. And then in terms of growing, we always want to have like some people on the bench. So then that way we can just take on new projects immediately once we signed up. And yeah, so it's good to have that bench is kind of like that redundancy for us, because otherwise, we actually have very low bench right now for some roles, and so we're looking to hire if anyone here is looking for a new opportunity. But yeah, it's good. You need to have that redundancy, especially if you're looking to grow.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. Oh, no, I was just going to add, I think redundancy is really important for us to be completely detached from work when we need to. And when you don't, you always feel like you can't. And we have a lot of folks who are really devoted to their job, so they are checking in. So we feel very lucky that we have so many team members who are so responsible, who want to check in. But at the same time, I do feel like it is our Fluxon's job to make sure that they do feel comfortable, that, the Earth continues to spin around the sun, right? I think having that redundancy is a luxury at the very beginning of a startup. You don't have the redundancy. You can't really afford to hire extra help. And there could be like systems you could put in place. So it's not really people, but really reprioritize. Oftentimes, I think many of us try to juggle and do so many things, and we think we need to do all of them. Oftentimes, it's really just like the top two. That are the most impactful thing you should be doing. And I think it's forgoing some of the lower priority tasks that could be resolved with some lack of redundancy. And then obviously we're very lucky that we're at the stage of the company where we can hire extra help. And so we can have that redundancy. And that is helping with our culture for sure, that again, like work continues and nobody feels like or guilty not being involved when they're all on vacation.
Yeah. And I think also as a leader, I think the most effective and the most like successful leaders are ones who hire well and delegate well, because it's not possible to do it all yourself. And I think, we've done really well at Fluxon, and we've hired, like, we know who our lieutenants are, who are, who we can delegate tasks to. I think, many founders, especially like, first-time founders or early in their careers, they tend to want to do everything themselves. And then in the beginning, yes, you are kind of doing it all yourself because it's just you and maybe one other person. But as you grow, like, you need to delegate, you need to hire well, and you need to be able to do that. So then you can kind of focus on the most important things. And, no one is a superhuman who can do like 20 tasks very well, like all at the same time.
Yeah.
And I know we're nearing the end of time. I see a really great founder question related. But first of all, like, I want to just say, I think all of you guys came into this company with prior management experience too. That probably helps you understand a little bit about that balance of do it yourself versus delegate. So Bridget, do you want to unmute Bridget and ask, or do you want me to ask for you? Okay, so basically, just curious how you screen for the quality of care in your people during the interview process. I know it's actually really hard to confirm assumptions around that too, right? And so I'm curious if you have also stories about maybe mistakes. I'm sure you have.
Of course.
Where that wasn't true and you thought maybe it was. So go ahead.
Jen, you want to go first? Sorry.
Sure. Yeah, no, I would say the interview process, I think everyone knows, is not a perfect process. You kind of do your best, to identify. I think for us, the two things we obviously very much care about, and I feel like these are people who generally are very successful, are people who are very smart and competent and can do and have the core skills for the job. But then the other part of it is the care. And so people who are willing to kind of go the extra mile. And we do definitely screen for all of this in every single round of our interviews. There's no really easy way to just identify that, but I do think there are some questions you can ask to kind of help identify, which is like, tell me a time of like when you went beyond like what was asked to do this, like when were you willing to kind of jump in and help out your team, even though it wasn't like, directly part of your job, and then even just like, if you're spending, because our interviews are like scheduled for like an hour, like after you talk for someone for an hour, you can kind of get a good feeling in terms of like if they're a good culture fit. Again, it's not perfect, but I think what's really important is even though the hiring process is not perfect, once you do hire somebody, generally in the first couple of weeks of somebody working with you, you can kind of tell if they're going to work out or not. And I think it's important once you hire somebody to pay very close attention to them, provide feedback. No one's expected to be perfect when they start working, but then the expectation is when you provide the feedback, they're immediately acting on it. And so I think the more important phase actually is not even just the interview phase, it's the first couple of weeks that someone joins the company, because then that's when you actually really see how they work and how they interact with people.
Yeah, totally agree. No interview process is perfect. So even if, like, let's say we work with someone, I think we're really looking for the care, because not everybody turns out to be a perfect fit in terms of the role, but that's okay. We have hired and kept a lot of folks who may not have been a perfect fit, but over time we realize, very quickly we realize they really care. They really care about doing a really great job. So sometimes maybe their onboarding takes a little bit more time, but that's okay. But what's unacceptable to us is if you don't care. And if you don't care, why are you here? Because when somebody doesn't care, that's going to have a negative impact on the company, on the rest of the team that's working with that person. So I think for us, it's like you have to make those decisions very quickly. I would say, reflecting back on like my entire career, I've never once regret firing anybody. I've always regret maybe taking a little too much time. And so I think just remember that. And oftentimes, Jen and I both notice is like the people sucks up most of your time are not performers, always the low performers. And if you think about your day to day and you're like, 80% of my time is spent talking about this person, not in a good way, that's a sign. That's usually a sign, a very clear sign.
Yeah. They say as managers, like you should be spending most of your time on your superstars or your high performers. And that's true. You want to be nurturing them. You want to keep them happy. You want to be, you want to be spending your most time with them because you want to make sure that they're doing well and they stay at your company and they're happy staying there. And the downside is unfortunately, the opposite is true. You're usually spending most of your time with the low performers. And so I think the important thing to recognize there is like, yes, you will have low performers. That is fine. That is normal. Interview process is not perfect. But then once you really do identify them and they're not, taking in the feedback and not, changing, then that's when you need to make a quicker decision to kind of let go versus, spending extra multiple months.
Yeah. And then the opposite is like, if you really do truly identify people who really care, who want you back in, and sounds like the UX designer that Markin, sorry if I mispronounced your question, that she really cares, you should hold on to her and do everything you can to kind of preserve that relationship with her. And, you're not just running your business for like 1 year, 2 years. It's sort of this continued relationship building. The people we worked with today are folks we worked with many, many, many years ago at a different job and a different life. And I think that's just something really, really important to keep in mind. Just keep good company.
So if I could actually ask a quick follow-up question, it sounds like you have not been afraid to prune as well when someone does not model care. Okay.
Yeah. I think just being very fiercely protective of your culture. And we're not, nobody want to fire anyone. But at the end of the day, you can see there's a large group of people that's suffering working with this individual. I think as leaders of the company, you have to make those decisions and very quickly.
Yeah. You're doing it to protect your company and to protect your people too. Because usually when that happens, it's like, if they're a bad culture fit, they're having a negative impact on other people, on other people's work lives. And if they're not performing well, also a negative impact because other people have to cover for them and do extra just to, you know, gets done. And so you're not really doing a service to your company to, you know, to try to keep all these people. You need to make sure you keep the ones that are, you know, a good fit for your company.
Yeah. So, I mean, what I heard is you can try your best to filter for it in the interview process, but it's really also about onboarding in those first several months and not to be afraid if you made the wrong decision to pull the plug quickly. Okay. Don't wait too long, right, Ina? So, okay. You guys, this is amazing. I learned so much from the both of you, and I hope others did as well. One closing question, I know we're just at time, so maybe like a super lightning fast answer, but you know, for people who are trying to start families and trying to start companies at the same time, what would you give them in terms of like final parting words of wisdom?
I would say just do it. Just do it now. Like,
I was gonna say,
hold back. Like, just do it, and then just lean on your community for help. Lean on people, like not just for the family, but also for the company. It's so great when you have like someone to lean on in your company. It's so great for me to have Ina, like even just very minor things like, hey, I'm able to send this email. Can you take a look? Does the tone of it look right? Like, it's just so helpful and so nice to have people to lean on both at work and outside of work.
yeah, I mean, I was going to say the exactly same thing. There's never a good time. Like if you want to do it, just do it. Just make sure you know what to expect. I think walking in with the expectation that this is going to be hard will serve you like in the long run. It's not supposed to be easy. Yeah.
I love this. Thank you guys so much. We will be back with another series. Yes. And we'll send a follow-up email and send out the recording for folks. But thank you all for joining.